welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about Kislev, or the land of the Great Bear. North from the rich lands of the Empire, the forests give way to great wind-swept plains and dark birch glades. These are the lands of Kislev. For 1,000 years this kingdom has endured, despite the attacks of the savage Norse raiders and the ever-present threat of chaos. During the long winter nights, the inhabitants gather around their log houses, remembering the glory of the czars of old and the ice queens from bygone ages. They sing the songs of war and dream of happier times, for their own age is filled with much strife. Year after year, the northern border with the forbidding troll country becomes increasingly hard to defend against the marauding chaos war bands. In the dark forests of Kislev, the beastmen multiply, and they become bolder in their raids against Kislevite farmsteads. Orcs and goblins from the Darklands pour into Zaborata and take heavy toll on the defenders of Kislev. But to the Kislevites, this matters not. The North is their home, and if they cannot live here, they will die here. The Kislevites. The inhospitable land of Kislev lies to the northeast of the Empire and acts as a bulwark between the land of Sigmar and the realm of Chaos. Kislev is a wide-open steppe containing waving tail grasses and thundering icy rivers. Lonely villages stand isolated in the empty wilderness, and mighty cities rise from the landscape like great islands of stone. The climate is harsh and unforgiving, and only the strongest, most determined people can survive here. The Kislevite people are wolf-tough and self-reliant, often seen as backward and rustic by their more civilized neighbors. But none can doubt their bravery or determination, for Kislev is a land that stands forever on the brink of destruction. The people of Kislev have seen their country ripped asunder by foul hordes from the chaos wastes of the far north, time and time again. And now these stoic folk face a colder and harder life than they ever have before. As the most northernly of civilized nations of the old world, Kislev stands forever on the brink of annihilation, for it borders the dreaded chaos wastes, the realm of the dark gods, and home to the bloodthirsty tribes that worship them. It is a wide, unbroken steppe with a bitter climate and hardy people, bound by the Sea of Claws to the west, the Troll Country to the north, and the World's Edge Mountains to the east. Its inhabitants must fight to survive against raiders from Norska, orc and goblin tribes from the mountains, and roving bands of nomadic raiders that plague the steppe. It is the Empire's bulwark against invasion from the north, and both nations have fought side by side many times over the centuries to defend their lands from the vile followers of chaos. Life in such a harsh land breeds hard men and women, people for whom the constant threat of death and destruction has become a way of life. To most outsiders, the inhabitants of Kislev are a dour, taciturn race, which is not surprising given the climate and their precarious way of life. But they possess a grim, often morbid sense of humor, and have a strict code of hospitality that welcomes strangers as well as friends to their hearth. The northern reaches of Kislev are wild and untamed, a bleak land of roving tribes and raiders, and the few settlements that survive do so thanks to high palisade walls of logs and the brave warriors who defend them. At night, doors doors are locked and windows are shuttered, as the ghosts of forgotten wars howl on the wind, and the chill of the grave settles upon the landscape. In the south, Kislev becomes more hospitable, though it is still cold for the better part of the year, and farmsteads and isolated communities flourish here. To many in the Empire, Kislev is seen as a somewhat backward place, and the rustic appearance of its buildings and lifestyle tend to support this. Such is not true, however, of the mighty cities where great temples and palaces are the envy of many such civilized lands. The capital city, also called Kislev, is home to some of the most incredible feats of architecture and culture, and Erengrad is one of the largest, most cosmopolitan cities in the Old World. The people of Kislev. Kislev is a country forged from various warring invaders who finally settled alongside each other. The bulk of the nation's population is made up of Ungals, the Gospodars, the Norse, and the last remnants of the Ropsmen. Tribes such as the Dolgons make their home in Kislev's northern areas, and many of the people that inhabit the south display many traits of the Empire, as it is common to interact and mingle the bloodlines. In fact, Kislev is almost two nations in one. On the one hand, there are the more civilized peoples of the south and the cities, where the lands are relatively fertile. And in the north, particularly north of the Linsk, there are wild, nomadic tribes. In the time of Sigmar, the harsh lands northeast of the Urskoi were populated by the Ungal tribes, who also dominated the smaller tribes of the Ropsmen who lived in what is now Troll Country. Sharing many traits with the Kurgan steppe nomads to the east, the Ungals were a scattered people consisting of nomadic, horse-riding tribesmen. Sigmar's influence did not stretch this far north, and they remained independent from the confederation of tribes founded by Sigmar. Frequently, the bulwark against the tribes of chaos, the Kislevites relish the debt owed to them by the people of the Empire to the south whom they protect. However, this does not stop a Kislevite from bitterly complaining about the state of affairs at every opportunity. The Kislevites are closer to the people of the Empire than many of them would admit, and view them as with a kind of patronizing humor that one might reserve for a bright but slightly eccentric child. Ursun, god of bears. Ursun is the god of bears, also known as Father of Bears or Father Bear. He is worshipped as first introduced by the Gospodars, but bears are such a major part of Kislevite life that the religion was absorbed almost instantly. Bears continue to be a vital part of society to this day, and the religion is now inseparable from the Kislevite culture. Worship of Ursun is not a state religion as the worship of Sigmar in the Empire is, but the fate of Kislev is linked in many minds to the fortunes and favor of Father Bear. Ursun is usually depicted as a giant brown cave bear, sometimes wearing a gold crown. He also often has golden teeth or golden claws, which indicate not only that Ursun is king of the beasts, but the value of bears as well. On the Oblast, a killed bear will provide great wealth to an entire stanitsa. Occasionally, Ursun is depicted as a large, burly man with gray streaks in his wild hair. He wears a loincloth and carries nothing but a spear. As a wild god, Ursun is not worshipped in temples, but in outdoor shrines or disused bear caves. In the cities, great gardens of pine trees, bushes, and rocks serve as a place of worship, the shrine hidden in a cave or cleft in the center. The greatest of these gardens sits near the Boga Palace in Kislev. religion in Kislev. The Kislevites are descended from humans that traveled from the Kurgan tribes of the north and east. In particular, the Kurgan influence is still strong in the north, and the horse clans share many traditions and customs with the likes of the Dolgans, Kazakhs, and other marauder tribes. In ancient traditions, the ancient traditions of these peoples are more keenly held amongst the nomads, who see their southern cousins as weakened by the civilizing influence of the empire. In this respect, worship of the various ancient Kislev gods varies across the nation, being more prominent in the north, while other gods have been incorporated into the Kislevite religion in southern lands. In addition, the Gospodars brought with them the cult of Ursun, which has been established as a dominant religion in Kislev. As most of the Kislevite ancestry originated from the eastern steppes and the harsh northlands, their gods represent very important forces in their lives. Various nature and household spirits are worshipped all across the old world, but this practice is particularly strong in Kislev. These magical creatures are servants and messengers of the gods in this world and should be treated as such. The Tsarina and the Law. As part of her drive to centralize authority, Tsarina Katerin declared she is the sole source of law and justice. Thus, any attempt to make or even enforce laws is a criminal act, unless the person in question has been authorized to do so by the Tsarina or by her representatives. She has instructed all her agents to take this law very seriously, and so they do. The result is that the penalties for unauthorized law enforcement are much more severe, when possible, than the penalties for the crimes involved. A group of adventurers who killed a group of bandits because they were bandits would face death by slow freezing for challenging the Tsarina's authority. On the other hand, a brawler who kills his opponent may be spared any further punishment if his victim was unpopular and if he took some wounds in the fight. Thus, cunning adventurers know to claim to have fought over an insult or a bet and, in the resulting brawl, killed a group of people who happened to be the bandits plaguing the village. Of course, everyone knows the truth behind the ruse, but the Tsarina recognizes that the surface form is what matters for now. If no one claims to be enforcing the law without her authority, then, very soon, she really will have a monopoly on that authority. To support this strategy, the Tsarina designated all the existing judges, magistrates, and city watches as her agents. Since the spring driving, she has stopped issuing retrospective authorization, but she has yet to turn down a request backed by the local rulers or community. Her closest advisors are now looking for a suitable location in which she can appoint someone without community support. There is a long way to go before the Tsarina will actually have control over the full system of law and justice, but neither she nor her counselors plan to waste any time getting there. The threat of darkness. The threat from the wastes to the north and east of Kislev is by far the most important factor in Kislevite politics. The threat is real, is always imminent, and without any warning can become utterly devastating. All leaders are assessed in terms of how well they can defend people from this threat, and no other political dispute can be allowed to get in the way of defense. The constant threat of war means that people only rise up against their overlords when they're thought to be hindering the defense against the north. Otherwise, it would be foolish to waste effort fighting another human when foul perversions of nature might attack at any moment. As a result, most uprisings happen near the borders of Kislev, when the leaders to the south are perceived to be withdrawing troops or other resources needed for local defense. The performance of the Tsarina's forces during the spring driving, when Chaos Hordes crossed the Linsk and defeated the combined forces of the Tsarina and the Empire, has dampened the desire for revolution for the moment, but this sentiment will not last forever. It might be thought that a common purpose would smother all political disputes. When the hordes are actually flowing over the steppes, it does, but most of the time disputes continue. However, the most important political disputes, the ones over which people will not compromise, are almost invariably concerned with the best way to defend the land. Often this means that the peasants put up with new taxes rather than risk weakening their defenses. But it can also lead to the nobility withdrawing unpopular taxes, as discontent among the common folk makes for less effective warriors. But when both sides think conceding would undermine their defenses, things can and do get very unpleasant. I think we are going to stop here for today. Big shout out to Matthias Eliasson from the Warhammer Armies Project. That's where I got this army book from. If you haven't checked it out, you definitely should. There's a crap load of content there. Yeah, I guess just a fair warning if you plan on using the armies. My personal opinion is that they overreach a bit, but obviously his lore is good. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.